So in terms of the strobing effect, I was talking last about the Honey Lust from, which is a MAC eyeshadow. Like I said before, I never use a brush with it because it does leave a lot of pigment. You can even see inside my Pro palette how much pigment is left around it, even with me applying this cushion to keep, you know, my eyeshadows from cracking and from moving into other areas. This thing leaves a lot of pigments. So there's sometimes some eyeshadows that you only can apply with your fingers. With a brush, it's just messy. Now, if you're going for an ethereal look, using a brush may work because it'll naturally drop these pigments on this area of your face. But a lot of times you may not want that look. You want to be in control of where the pigment is going, where the color is going. So I've learned the hard way not to utilize that with the brush. And if I do want to use it on my eyelid, I would normally use it my finger and just dab it in. And you'll see some techniques I'll do in other videos how I use my finger. There is an eyeshadow that I have that doesn't fit into a quad, and I only buy colors that fit. Ooh, that just broke. Fit into this quad or the Pro palette. I only buy it like that because I like to work with it like that. I think that I've had it so long, this is basically finally broke. At least the top has. And but they do last a really long time. And I may just have to get a new one just for this color, but I'm gonna keep it until I run out of it. Run it down into the very end. Or if I can make it to a MAC store, I'll probably buy a new one and just replace it. It's just that easy. It's magnetic. But that Honey Lust is a tricky one. And I have, like I was saying earlier, I have like another eyeshadow that I normally only buy the ones that go into the Pro palettes. But this one I love it, and I'll show you what I mean. That this is another eyeshadow that I'll show in another video that I only can use with my finger. Any other way won't work. So, you know, yes, you want to use brushes and be professional, but sometimes, every once in a while, you may have to apply things with your finger. And that strobing effect that I was showing, I only put on the tip of my nose. I don't use a concealer. I don't find it to be very effective. And I use it right on top of my cheek. So this area, I sometimes sweep back and forth right on top of it. If you want to leave it there, I'd like to go right here. And you probably see it too. You know, that natural strobing effect. I don't really put it over my brow because I use that other eyeshadow as my brow highlighter. If I want to, I sometimes put it there if I wanted a little bit more but those are the two areas. In terms of eyeshadows, that's it. I use several eyeshadows. The last eyeshadow I will use on my eyes is still from that brush line I showed earlier, the Beauty 360. The majority of the brushes I use from this one, so that's why it's a kit worth buying, because you have a lot of small brushes. Out of the 5 brushes, I have 3 left that I haven't used yet. This one I probably won't use, but you could use this for contouring. Because it's like a blush, if you look at it, but it's a little bit longer. So if you want to contour, you can contour if you want to just stay right in here. I use the eyeshadow because I like to bring it a little further down. I see that's my natural cheekbone, if you can see. Some people like to only stay really high up here. So this one could be used for contouring. I probably wouldn't use it down here, but I could. I just find with the eyeshadow brush, it's more in control and not getting so crazy. Sometimes people contour and it looks funny. It looks like someone has like brown stuff on your face. It doesn't look like it's natural. So out of those 3 brushes, that one I put aside, and I didn't use it in this video that way, but I could show you if you were to buy this particular brush kit, how many uses you can use it. Now the 2 brushes I have left are these 2. You see the little slight difference? This one I'm probably going to use for my lips, and that one I'm going to use for also an eyeshadow. This is when you really want to pinpoint. What eyeshadow I use is from my quad. This, like I told you, I made this quad, and this is something I use all the time. I'll touch base on what colors are in here. The other two colors I didn't touch upon. Obviously, you know I love that one. So that one is almost gone. And that's another one I may do another look, but another time. The color that I'm using here is called Goldmine. It's really a nice gold that I love. I love golds. I just like my technique of eyeshadow is I tap the brush in. I don't do both sides of it because it's unnecessary. When I use eyeshadow, I don't do a sweeping motion. I do a press in, and I showed you that earlier on how I did it with. I'll probably show you actually how I do it because one of my pet peeves is when ladies will apply, and I just tap it right there in the corner. See, my liner is bleeded out, and I made a mistake utilizing, but I normally just tap it right into the corner of the eye, a little bit on top, a little bit on the bottom, and that's all I would need. I'm going to clean this brush before I put it back in. I want it to be a clean brush inside my container. A little OCD with that. Like my brush is really clean. I apply my makeup with a clean face. I think my brushes should be clean. So I use that really small brush to tap right in the corner of my eye, a little bit on the bottom, a little bit on the top. And that is pretty much it in terms of eyes and face that I do. Seems like really extensive, but when you just go ahead and do it, it's really fast. One of the last things I have left that I wanted to show is really getting into my lips and getting into my eyes. I think I'll be able to really cover everything I wanted to cover in the video. But the next step that I want to do is this effect that I did here. Now, originally I bought this last year on clearance from CVS. It's basically a Wet n Wild kit. They call it Fantasy Makers. And you see the stencils that are in it. There's like two really large stencils, two small ones, and two different size spiders. I have been inspired by this look for the last year, and this is my first time ever doing it. Initially, when I did my video earlier today, I chickened out on applying the stencil. I actually applied it to my face, but then I didn't like how it was sitting. My face curved, so I didn't really like how the stencil was sitting. But this is what the stencil looks like. If I was smarter, I would have used this larger stencil on my face. But when I applied the smaller stencil, I got nervous. This is what it looks like on the, on the paper. But I've cut some out, as you already can see. But this is the stencil. I actually reapplied it to the sheet, the card sheet. So it is true. It can be reused. Even though I had all that makeup and contouring makeup and bronzer on my cheeks, it's still somewhat adhesive. The only issue I have with the stencil is that it's flimsy. When I applied it to my face, it didn't adhere and it didn't maintain the frame, and I was too scared to put it on and then it not turn out right. So I ended up just freehanding it. The mistake that I did on it does look like a spider web, but I feel like I should have curved it upward. I kind of curved it outward. I feel like I should have curved it inward, and it would have looked a little bit better. But it doesn't matter. No spider web is perfect. None of my lines are perfect. What I am impressed with is how long the line has worked. I've put on eyeliner that made me cry. I took a tissue, pressed it in, didn't affect this at all. So I'm going to finish up with the stencil. This is a stencil I would have wanted to put on my face and have it trickle down, but it may have been too much. Maybe if I were doing it in the center of my face, that would be fun, because that's a little bit more flatter than over my cheekbones. So curvy over here. So I chickened out. I didn't utilize the stencil. The kit came with, it's on clearance. If you really want it, you probably can Google it. I'm sure there are a lot of people that buy things from CVS that go on clearance and actually resell it, which is kind of terrible. But anything you want, you can find it. And I'm sure they probably may duplicate it again or have a different version of it. this year, but I got mine at CVS, and you may find something like that again. But if you have a pretty steady hand, you can probably do it yourself. This is just a basic pencil that came with the kit. That pops right into there. The stencil I put on that side. And it also came with this little palette. It had a little brush that it came with that went here. And this has a black cream. I was going to use it, but I was too scared to use it. It was not dark enough. So I'm going to probably use that as an eyeshadow when I tried some other Wet n Wild colored mascara that I purchased. I'm going to do that on a different look. And then I bought nail polishes that are Wet n Wild nail polishes in this whole color family. The only one I've really used is just the silver glitter. The red glitter I've tried on in the house, but haven't actually really used it and went out in it. But I will be using the black cream soon. But that's basically the whole kit. But like I said, I did chicken out and didn't really use a stencil. But it was great inspiration. And I'm going to try to stencil in other areas. Maybe try next year, maybe try it on my brows. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I do find that it'd probably be easier just to freehand it. So what I use to freehand it, this is a Wet n Wild liquid foundation. It's basically the H2O proof. Obviously, it is a foundation. I mean, liquid liner. A lot of things I'm saying foundation. I'm saying brow bone and touching my cheekbone. So, you know what I mean. That's why I'm holding it. Liquid liner. This liquid liner is waterproof. Obviously, it's really good quality because this has stayed on my face after all day. I would say all day. It's pretty later into the day. It's quite in the evening. And I put this on maybe around 9 o'clock a.m. this morning. So I've been up with it all day. And it's still there. I mean, it's not moving. I don't know if that has to do with the base primer I use or the finishing, but what I put on my face, I didn't use any finishing powder. The only thing I use is a spray, and this is just that good. So if you want to try this effect and freehand it, I would use a waterproof liquid liner. And let me tell you why I like the Wet n Wild brand more, because of this. Hear that? That noise it makes, like kind of like, you know, when you are shaking up nail polish, that keeps it wet. You can work with this. It won't dry out. It's very easy to work with. On this side, I just did a really high wing. A very straight line. My lines weren't perfect, but it came out really well. I think because I really was nervous. And I chickened out on doing the stencil, so I kind of just freehanded and was really, really nervous in doing it in the video. But if you are going to do this effect, you definitely use a waterproof liquid liner. And even though Wet n Wild is not one of the top of the line brands, it's really good. It's not, if you thought one way about Wet n Wild before, it is nothing like what it used to be back in the day. I used to think Wet n Wild was more one of the cheaper brands. It is still pretty inexpensive, comparable to all the other brands that you can find like at a CVS, but I'm just impressed. I normally just stick to M.A.C, and I love liquid liners. I don't do a wing often, but I'm gonna start doing it often when I do a smoky eye. That's a really dramatic wing, but I only try to match it to what this one looked like. And this side of my face is out, but it's a great liquid liner. I'm impressed about how long it's lasted for this effect. So very pleased with that. Going into my eyeliner, because I'm almost done. Eyeliner I use, M.A.C, Smolder. I got a little overzealous in how I applied it. On another video, I'll show you my technique on how I apply eyeliner to really get it deep. But I got a little overzealous, too overzealous with this particular one, because Smolder really bleeds out. But because it is Halloween, that smoky effect is okay today. But normally I would never do it like this, but I kind of like what I did. I may do a smoky eye and play with this a little bit more, and maybe wing it out a little bit more. The pencil sharpener I use, another M.A.C one of the best pencil sharpeners I've ever owned. Always stays sharp, never have had a problem. More likely people steal it before I end up having to replace it. and sharpens. I'll show you in another video me sharpening it, how it really, you save your product. Don't sharpen your pencils too much to preserve the life of them.